Good to see you guys again. Thank you so much for all the feedback over the last few episodes. If you're watching for the first time, welcome in. I do highly recommend that you go back and watch the first 3 episodes, because the way that I do my shows is kind of like a book, and every episode is a chapter. And if you missed the first 3 chapters, would you really start reading a book from chapter 4? Yeah, a lot of continuity from one show to the next. So go check them out. Come back once you're done, and feel free to leave comments on all episodes or one of the episodes. Let's get to it. A little bit about the channel for the new people, because there's always new people coming in. As the channel description says on YouTube, it says that this will be a discussion on a possible separation referendum in the province of Alberta. It's going to be a lighthearted, sometimes reminiscent, and even humorous look at the issue. It is a serious issue. It's an issue that is very controversial and also can be divisive, not only within our province, but within our family, within our friends. And I want to take a little bit of a different approach and take a look at things a little more lightheartedly, to take a little bit of ease and anxiety and stress off of our everyday lives, just to kind of kick back and look at the issue, but not as a full force, throwing a lot of facts at you, boom, 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 aggressive kind of approach. A little bit more lighthearted, like we're sitting on a Chesterfield in front of the fire having a conversation. Again, I am a Gen Xer, and those of you that are Xers or Boomers kind of know the time period that I grew up in, and often I'm going to give you a lot of Gen X references. I'm sorry, I am. It could be like a drinking game, except drink coffee. Every time I mention something to do with the Gen X generation, take a drink. You'll be under the table in no time. Which leads to our first viewer comment from Randall. Randall says, let's talk about Alberta becoming an independent country, not chocolate bars. What concerns me the most is it's got 11 likes. Randall. I didn't know when I saw this. I didn't know if I should take it seriously or if it was sarcasm. Yeah, there you go. Take a drink. I did talk about chocolate bars. Spoiler alert in the first 2 episodes. However, Randall in the same episode left another comment, and he said, okay, Cuban Lunch was the best. Darn, I miss it. So I think it was a semi-lighthearted, sarcastic message for that first one. No, I don't know. But Randall, I'll make you a promise, Randall, about chocolate bars. If I ever spend time talking about the cherry blossom, will you please raise money and pay for my therapy? Because those ones I did not like. And in fact, those ones, if you remember them, they are now, you can't even buy them. They're discontinued. They don't make them anymore. Thank goodness. All right, there's our chocolate reference for today. Next viewer comment. Again, I do like to spend some time going through some of your comments. I do read them all. Usually I put a thumbs up on most of them, and there will be the odd one I do make a comment on. Unfortunately, I can't show them all because it would be a 3-hour episode because there are so many, but I thank you. You guys, again, just amazing. John B says, hey, bud, I subscribed from Medicine Hat. Let's get her done. I'm 63, born Albertan. John, I put this one on because I'm extremely familiar with Medicine Hat. I don't think I mentioned this before, but I spent my young childhood in the great city of Medicine Hat. Went to some rodeos off on the side districts there, and Chinooks. As a young kid, went to the Medicine Hat Tigers, and the Medicine Hat Blue Jays. And this is another reason why I reminisce a lot, because it goes to show you what times were like back then. I was 8, 9, 10 years old. Parents were working. It was the summertime, or maybe it was the wintertime. And we lived on 3rd Street, John. 3rd Street Southeast, I think. We lived in the flats for a while as well. And I was a young kid, and my brother was a couple years younger than me. And we would go just on our own to a Medicine Hat Tigers game or to a Blue Jays game. Got to see some of them in the late 70s. No parents, just going around to the games by yourself, walking there, walking home. And it created a lot of memories. So much fun. So when I saw you were from Medicine Hat, I had to mention that. A lot of tough times back then for my family. My mother and father had a difficult marriage, and my mom had to raise five of us, including my 3 stepbrothers and sisters. It was not very easy to do. And again, it was just a different time. So whenever I do reminisce, I don't want to make light of it being easy back in those days. There were a lot of difficult things that took place in many families. But it just seemed like for kids anyway, it allowed us we had a lot of freedom as kids, and we didn't take advantage of us. Look at us now. We sit back and talk about chocolate bars. Like, it didn't ruin us, did it? I hope not. So thank you, John. John left another comment. And this is part of that as well. Just having the freedom as kids back then, that you can't really give freedom to kids today because too many dangerous things could happen. Don't forget, we had this thing, and it was called imagination, because we didn't have a computer or cell phones. Our phone hung on the wall. Remember the rotary phone, the little coiled cord that would only reach so far? Maybe you lived in an area that had the party line where, different tones would indicate it was your turn to use the phone. You could listen in on other conversations. Times were much different. And yes, we had to use our creativity. I saw someone in the chat. I didn't cut this comment, but there was a conversation by someone saying, kids today have a much better life. Kids today have a much more easier. I don't know if easier was the word, but they were saying that life for kids in 2026 is better than we had it back in the 70s and 80s. I don't agree with it, but everyone's has their own opinion. I think kids today have it easier in the sense of entertainment and luxuries and just things that they can do to preoccupy your time. Back then, yeah, we would go outside. There was a mound of dirt, and we had our little Mattel cars. Make a few hours building a city in that dirt, driving our cars around, using our imagination. What city is this? What can I mold out of this dirt? Okay, that's my Kmart. That's my gas station over here. And we would just play. Or we'd grab a stick and a ball hockey ball, and we would go and we would shoot pucks against the wall or balls against the wall. If you're fortunate enough, you were able to get one of those nets, little cheap hockey nets. But we would not usually get bored. We could find things to do. Often our parents would say, go outside, go do something. And we'd go out and we would do something, and it usually didn't involve getting into trouble. Unfortunately, now today, when you tell kids, go outside and do something without their cell phone and video games, they don't know what to do a lot of times. And they do get bored. And boredom leads to sometimes getting into trouble. So thank you, John, for those comments. Johnny Alberta says, love what you're doing. I think your respectful and educational approach is going to be more and more important as we approach the referendum and the discussions ramp up. I've forwarded your link to your channel to everyone I can think of. Thanks for doing this. Well, Well, thank you so much, Johnny. Like I said, I kind of want it to be a little bit lighthearted. Plenty of social media channels you can go to if you want fact after fact after fact, continuous discussion, continuous. And we will do that, like I said. And the longer I keep broadcasting, the more deeper we're going to get into it. Someone left a comment that I'm kind of setting the table these first few episodes. I'm kind of slow rolling before we get into the big heavy stuff. And yeah, I kind of am. Like I said, I want to get to know my community. I want you to get to know me a little bit. But we will delve into a lot of the big issues in the upcoming shows. So thank you, Johnny. And one of my missions in doing these broadcasts is there are a lot of people that are kind of undecided, especially a lot of older people that maybe support the Liberals, but they're not aggressively against separation. It's not like they glare at you and they yell at you and they swear at you anytime you bring it up. So they're kind of on the fence. And I'm hoping through information that I'm able to provide in these shows, maybe you or I might convince them that we're not crazy. We are normal, everyday people. We're not wackos. And sometimes people get in that fight and flight mode where and I know we're passionate, we want to convince people because we know we're right. And just listen to us, just here's the facts. And you throw all these videos at people, all these links that go after detail and detail and detail, and it's overwhelming. And people that are on the fence or opposed to this issue, they get into that fight or flight. You got a group of people that will fight anytime you throw facts at them, argue, like that. And their arguments don't often make sense. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they're just being defensive. And anytime you give them a video to watch, again, they don't want to watch it. It's like, I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. I don't want to watch this. So you don't want to overwhelm someone when you're trying to have a conversation with them. Again, keep it lighthearted, get into the conversation in a casual way, and then just start to drop some facts like we're going to go through later in the show today. So that's kind of my approach anyway. After teaching for over 30 years, I was more successful with students with a softer, gentler, slower approach than bombarding them and trying to force them to accept a certain position. Johnny also left another comment. In a sec, we'll get to it. Soft whisper. Yeah, I tried those Thrills gums, those purple chiclets, but it reminded me of Mom washing my mouth out with soap. Yeah. You ever get a chance to taste Thrills? Just remember, it's not a pleasant taste, but it doesn't last very long, like my coffee cup. Johnny also said, and this is where we get a little more serious, I realize you're laying the groundwork, but please don't forget the shift to other radical ideologies such as wokeism, globalism, climate extremism, elitism, and the closely related authoritarianism. The Liberals have adopted an alarming mix of toxic and destructive ideologies that constitute something far more ominous than simply a shift to the left of center. And what Johnny's referring to there is the content from the last episode, where I kind of went over an overview of the political spectrum and how a political spectrum works. In fact, Emmanuel also commented on that content saying, fascism and communism are the same. The political spectrum should be measured in a circle, not a straight line, because crazy meets in the middle. You know, you have your extremists on the left, your extremists on the right, and Emmanuel's correct. I didn't want to get too deep into the political spectrum, but if you have your sheet of paper, like you see on the screen with the basics, and you take that sheet of paper and you fold it, or actually put it into like a circle where the two ends will meet, that crack, pretty much the same way of thinking. They're both strongly authoritarian, and it's dictatorship, extremism, radical, all those kind of things. So on one side, you have your Joseph Stalin. On the other side, you have your Adolf. Bring them together. Similar ideologies. The big difference, though, is in terms of economics, but in terms of social structure and dictatorship, yeah, it's pretty much the same. So thank you, Emmanuel, for that comment. Here's kind of that circular look at the political spectrum here. So thank you for pointing that out. I didn't want to get too deep because, again, when we look at the political spectrum, it can get very complicated. And that's not the point of this whole set of series of podcasts here. But again, it's something that I did want to point out because we are talking about politics a lot of times. And I want people to be able to help determine where they are on the spectrum. So I did give you a little test to take. It's in episode number 3. There's a link in that description box. You can take that short test and you can see where you fit on this political spectrum, which quadrant that you might belong in. And then you can do some research about other parties and people that are part of that same quadrant that you have similarities with. Another viewer comment, again from Soft Whisper. Thanks, Glenn, for addressing the left-wing and right-wing politics. You and I are very close on where the respective parties are in 2026. I believe most people have some socialist values, like unemployment insurance, social assistance, but I believe they're poorly run. The government agencies, in my honest opinion, are usually poorly run and they waste taxpayers' money. Christians have been under attack recently all across the world, and you see some groups complaining that certain speech was an attack on them. Without free speech, we won't be able to criticize our government, and we would lose the right of freedom of religion. Thanks for a good podcast with good information. Stay free, brother. Yes, stay free. Thank you, Soft Whisper, for all your comments. And the last viewer comment today from John Dozer. Every day that goes by, I stand stronger and stronger in my resolve to vote for independence. Ottawa has very little time to act. Words will not cut it. The correct actions in Parliament is the only thing that will change my mind. Faye responded and said, at this point, there's nothing more that can be said. I'm tired of my taxes, property, the way of life being determined at every turn. Let's go. Alberta Independence. Which John replied back, was just finishing for a Liberal to play with. My vote in the fall has been secured for a long, long time. Alberta that is free and independent all the way. Keep leaving those comments. I'll select a few every episode to go through. And there were comments on both sides of the issue in episode number 3. There were comments from that one individual saying that kids have a more memorable way of life today than back in the 70s and 80s. And there was a person, Tina, that had a lot of comments about how we should not be separating from Canada. But I do have to say, on both sides of the issue, you guys were very respectful. There was not a lot of hate. There was no hate. It was a good debate, good conversation. Keep that up. Thank you guys so much for the respect you're giving each other in the comments. Today's show, we're going to go through part 1 of reasons supporting Alberta separation. Something a lot of you have been waiting for to talk about. It's finally here. We're going to go through our top 10. This episode will go through the top 5 kind of economic reasons. And then next episode, we'll go through the next 5, which are more kind of social reasons. Talking points. You know someone that's kind of on the fence that just needs a little more nudging, a little bit more information, and you don't want to overwhelm them? Well, maybe you can use these talking points or refer them to this video. First reason why Alberta should separate. Alberta is a large net contributor to the federal government. The argument is that Albertans pay more federal taxes than the province receives back in federal spendings. Anytime that you give more than you get back, it's usually not a good overall prospect for you. And that's what's happening in Canada. Here's some statistics. The federal government collects about $70 billion in taxes from us Albertans. And roughly, we get back about $56 billion. Doesn't even out. Here, Carney, here's $70 billion in our taxes. And then the federal government gives back about $55 billion. Leaving a net fiscal outflow of about $12 to $20 billion annually. On average, about $4,200 per Albertan per year leaves the province in net fiscal transfers. Over $4,000 from every single Albertan taxpayer leaves the province. And between 2007 and 2022, that 15-year period, Albertans' net contribution to federal finances was about $244 billion. A lot of monopoly money. A lot of money going to the federal government, of which, again, we might get 75% of that back. But that's a big loss for us. What could we do with that extra money? So there's the first reason. Here you can see, I always like to provide visuals because I'm a visual learner. I would not be able to learn watching just slides that is just text and numbers. Again, it's just I like to see pictures, whether they're graphs, photographs, whatever it might be, little video clips. So I like to kind of include both in my presentation. If that's how I learn, chances are a lot of you out there learn the same way. So here you see a graph showing the distribution of federal revenue and spending by province. And the blue bars is money going out, and the red bars, money coming in to that province. So you'll see Alberta and BC, we're considered, Alberta, BC, and Ontario are considered have provinces. That's the term I learned in the 90s and 2000s is have provinces. We have resources. We have a surplus. We have a lot of money that can be made. BC, Alberta, and Ontario have higher blue bars. All the other provinces, the red bars are either equal or higher. Refer to them as have-not provinces. So you've got 3 have provinces, and then you have 7 have-not provinces. And the 3 have provinces have to support the others. Reason number 2 why Alberta should strongly consider separating from Canada, continuing on economically, has to deal with the equalization payments. Most of you are familiar that Alberta contributes heavily to equalization. And the formula absolutely does not favor us. Here's some numbers for you. Alberta has not received equalization payments since the mid-60s. It's about 60 years ago. Nothing. Every year, equalization payments are given out by the federal government. They have provinces pay in. And Alberta has not benefited from equalization since the mid-60s. Federal government, through equalization, distributes about $26 billion annually to other provinces. So that chart that we saw, the 7 other provinces getting a share of that $26 billion. In 2025, 2026, Provinces such as Quebec received over 13 billion. And again, now is Alberta, zero. Nothing. Estimates suggest Alberta has contributed about 3.3 billion each year to these equalization payments. So not only through federal taxes are we on the short end, but in addition to that, there's this equalization as well. Here's a couple pics for you, a couple visuals. You may have seen this on the Stay Free Alberta presentations, this map here showing Alberta, BC, and I guess Saskatchewan is kind of right at that equal with the blue bar and the red bar. Look at this, Manitoba, 4.4 billion. Ontario, $500 million. The Atlantic provinces, and then Quebec, 13.3 billion in equalization payments. And if we compare that to just 7 years ago, let's look at equalization back in 2017, 2018. Alberta, BC, and Saskatchewan still at zero. Still paying into it, not getting anything out of it. Manitoba was only at 1.8 billion. So now they were at 3 billion extra. Ontario's dropped to a third of what they've got before. Quebec has gone up from 11 billion to 13 billion. And the Atlantic provinces, again, are kind of in that same range, either going up a little, down a little, but still getting equalization payments. So this is nothing new. It's not something that is just a 2 or 3 or 5 year anomaly. It's been going on for a long time. And for some provinces, the money that they're receiving is going up. Where is it coming from? Yeah, the have provinces. So when you're having this discussion, don't get aggressive. Just show that person the information. Don't put them in a fight or flight. Just say, hey, did you even realize? Do you even know what equalization payments are all about? Do you think it's fair? Alberta continually has to give money to other provinces. And maybe their response is, well, yeah, but they're not as well off. They're struggling. Their economy's struggling. Well, it's struggling because in many cases, like Quebec, they choose not to develop their resources. Or, like Quebec Hydro, is not on the books. So that income not even calculated into the formula. So do provinces deserve money if they are not doing what they can to earn revenue? I always, have the analogy of your kids moving back home. Your kid moves back into the basement. You buy their food, you buy their clothing, you give them an allowance. And then they get a little bit of a job. They earn a little bit of money, but they don't want to work any harder. They only want to work part-time. They want to play the rest of the time playing video games, hanging out with their friends. But they keep sending you the receipts for all the things they buy. You keep dishing out the money. At some point, you scratch your head and go, wait a minute, you were offered full-time? You could be making more money to support yourself, but you keep asking mom and dad for cash? Reason number 2, why Albertans should consider separating from Canada. Let's go to number 3, huge long-term fiscal transfers from Alberta. The argument is over decades, Alberta has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to the rest of Canada. Again, all of these arguments kind of flow into each other a little bit. It's all with the economics, with the money. because that's one of the big concerns. Is the money leaving Alberta? Total estimated net fiscal transfers since Alberta, or in Alberta since 2000, is about $544 billion. $500 billion from Alberta. Some estimates place the total since the 1960s at over $600 billion. So that 60-year period, we have not got equalization payments. And we've given out over $600 billion in all areas, not just equalization or taxes, but all areas combined, over $600 billion. From 2007 to 2018 alone, Alberta sent nearly $240 billion more to Ottawa than it received. Here's our money. We get a little bit back. You get to keep the rest. That's a pretty big tip. Annual net transfers have typically ranged between $15 billion and $27 billion. Again, constant theme, money leaving, money leaving. Look at this visual. Alberta's net contribution to Ottawa, more than $244 billion in that 15-year period. You notice something different, like they would say on Sesame Street. One of these things is different from the other. Gen X reference, take a drink. BC, Ontario, Saskatchewan kind of fluctuate between have and have not provinces, those three. And then you see all the red from all the other provinces, and look who's at the very end. Quebec, $327 billion in the negative. You think maybe showing this to someone that's on the fence, someone that's undecided, might perk them up a little bit, might raise an eyebrow? I think so. Number 4, Alberta is disproportionately productive economically. The argument is that Alberta's economy is much stronger per person than most of Canada. Some numbers to back it up. Alberta produces about 15% of Canada's GDP, gross domestic product, but we only got about 12% of the population. Less people producing more. Hard workers in Alberta. Workers that put in longer shifts. Workers that might be doing 2 jobs, putting in overtime. One thing about the Alberta population, for the most part, extremely hard workers. Alberta has the highest GDP per capita of any Canadian province, often 80 to 90,000 per person. And personal income tax contributions from Albertans average about $6,214 per person. This is your federal income tax average. However, compared to the national average, it's about $4,500. So you're looking at what? Just about $1,500, $1,600 more per person paying federal income tax. Does that make sense? We produce a big percentage of GDP. We have a lot of revenue. We contribute a lot already to the federal government. And they're charging us more. Corporate taxes as well in Alberta are about a couple $100 more than the national average. So personal taxes, business taxes, everyone's paying more to the federal government in, again, the most profitable, economic, sustainable province in Alberta. In Canada. Here's another diagram for you, a visual. real GDP per capita 2023. You see the Canadian national average there, about 60,000. Alberta, we've got the highest bar. Yeah, close to 80K, as I mentioned earlier. Nova Scotia, PEI, again, the Atlantic provinces tend to be the lower ones for GDP. Just another visual to show your friends that are undecided. Here's the federal income tax. We see a bar chart here. Alberta paying the most in federal income tax. About $800 more than Ontario, about $1,000 more than BC. Quebec, again, about $1,700 more that we're paying in Alberta. And they're getting the equalization payments. And the final one today, Alberta's oil and gas industry is central to Canada's economy. Therefore, the argument is federal policies have been affecting our energy disproportionately, and that affects us in Alberta and the entire province of Alberta. 97% of Canada's proven oil reserves, 97% are in Alberta. The province produces about 4 million barrels of oil per day. And the oil and gas sector account for about 25 to 30% of Alberta's GDP. So yes, we are heavily reliant on the oil and gas industry. And a counter argument often is, well, what about if oil prices go down? Oh, they could go down to $40 a barrel, $30 a barrel. What's Alberta going to do? Always possibilities in any economic system, any economy in the world. Things could happen. And yes, it does help to be diversified. Could Alberta diversify even more? I think so. But oil and gas, I don't think are going away. And if you look at the current geopolitical situation, oil prices have gone up pretty good. You think Alberta might have benefited from the issues going on in the world right now? Maybe put a bunch in the piggy bank? Energy exports generate tens of billions of dollars annually in federal tax revenue. So again, who's benefiting from the oil development? The federal government. Who's preventing Alberta from becoming even wealthier and generating more money? The federal government. Who's putting on restrictions and regulations? The federal government. Who's preventing a lot of pipelines? Well, a lot of people, including the federal government and other provinces. BC, I'm looking left towards you. Quebec, I'm looking right towards you. World's largest oil and gas producers by region. So you see Canada, 5th in the world, but Alberta, you just took Alberta, we'd be 7th. And a lot of people, again, they will say, but Alberta cannot be a country. You'd not be able to survive. Well, I think Qatar's a country. I think Norway's a country. Brazil. I've seen them on a map. Mexico. So I don't really buy into that argument that we can't generate enough revenue and oil could tank and, cause a huge recession, depression in Alberta. I think we do just fine. We did it before. But it does take fiscal responsibility. It does take really good economic management. But we've been out of debt before. Our premier at the time, and it was in a fortunate situation when the oil prices were pretty good. And yes, he had to tighten the belt in a lot of ways in terms of social programs at times. But look what it did. Debt free. You imagine? We're not there now. So yes, prices of oil could go down, but they could also go up. And when they go up, if you're fiscally responsible, you can get through the tough times. I always say, put money away for a rainy day. If you do that, you'll get through the tough times. It's cyclical. Things go up and down. So just a recap of today's top 5 economic reasons for separation for Alberta. Again, the supporters for separation. Independence would allow Alberta to keep more tax revenue locally instead of sending it to Ottawa. Alberta's wealth helps fund public services in other provinces, while Alberta receives none of these payments. Think of what we could do for our hospitals, our schools. This wealth could have funded infrastructure, tax cuts, or sovereign wealth funds inside of Alberta. And what Norway has. They've got a nice stash for a rainy day. We could do that as well. If we didn't have to give $544 billion away over the last 60 years. Alberta's high productivity means it could support itself economically as an independent state. And that the federal environmental regulations limit our ability to fully develop our key industry. So much potential to do so much more with our resources. Next episode, we're going to get into the next 5 reasons. A couple of them still economic, but a few social arguments as well. And down the line, I am going to produce the counter arguments because I want both sides to be looked at. We're putting our shoes now in the supporters of separation, but I do want to do an episode putting ourselves in the shoes of those that are against separation. I think it's important to do both sides. And then in chat, we can, have a civil conversation, argue against those points from both sides. So stay tuned for part 2 of our top 10. Don't forget, signatures still being collected. Whether you agree with separation or not, you should want to sign this petition because by signing it, that will lock in your democratic right to vote in a referendum. You will get your say whether Alberta should separate or not. So go out, sign the petition, kick in that referendum question. Don't forget, you can go check out a few websites, Alberta Prosperity, also Stay Free Alberta. At that site, you can check out more information. You can sign up to become a canvasser at the petition sites. You can also donate, and there are over 260 signing locations. It has just exploded. And this is what everyone in support of a referendum is hoping we see in October or November. Do you agree that the province of Alberta should cease to be part of Canada to become an independent state, not the 51st state? Thanks, everyone, again. If you're going to be in Brooks, when I'm recording this, that is on Tuesday in a couple days, March 17th, there will be a guest speaker at 7 p.m. Check that out at the Castles Community Center. Also at the Bow Island Legion on March the 18th, there will be a guest speaker as well at 6 o'clock in the evening. And at Parkside Manor Senior Center, March 18th, 7:30 p.m. off in Tabor. That's it for this episode. Hope to see you in the next one. Please leave a comment, share this out, like the video. Every single word that gets out there may bring 1, 2, 3 more people into realizing that Alberta's best move is the right move, and that is becoming an independent state. My name is Glenn, and I am a proud Canadian and an even prouder Albertan. I'll see you next episode.